Announcing the arrival of Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Technologies Dr. Syarahan bin Sahib, Vice Chancellor of University Technical Malaysia Melaka, accompanied by senior officials and distinguished guests. The Negara Crew will now be played, followed by UTM Terbilang. Audience, please rise. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Technologies Dr. Syarahan bin Sahib, Vice Chancellor of University Technical Malaysia Melaka. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Technologies Dr. Muhammad Razali bin Muhammad, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and International. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zulkifli bin Ibrahim, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation. Yang Berbahagia Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Fajar bin Abdul Manap, Deputy Vice Chancellor Student Affairs. Assistant Vice Chancellors, members of the Executive Council, our esteemed speaker of the day, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Makno Hayati bin Tahir, Dean of the Faculty of Technology Management and Technopreneurship. Fellow deans, lecturers, Professor Makno's personal friends, family, invited guests, and students. Welcome to the first series of the 2019 UTM's Professorial Lecture. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Alhamdulillah, on this blessed morning and with the grace of Allah the Almighty, we are able to gather here to witness the university's first professorial lecture of 2019. This scholarly ceremony is organized by the Faculty of Technology Management and Technopreneurship to celebrate the achievements of our notable professor, Professor Dr. Makno, who is also our dean. During this auspicious occasion, Professor Makno will be sharing with us his views and insights on the things he finds most passionate about, his research on the economic environment of Malaysia. We would like to congratulate him on this special day, and we look forward to hearing his lecture soon. Before we proceed with today's agenda, I would like to call upon Encik Isma Adi bin Jumi from FPTT to recite the doa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kita mulakan dengan buku kitab Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, Ya Karim, sesungguhnya kami berhimpun pada pagi ini bagi menyatakan kesyukuran di atas kurnia-Mu yang tidak ternilai. Ya Allah, jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang sentiasa bersyukur, sama ada nikmat yang sedikit, lebih baik lagi nikmat yang melimpah ruah kepada kami. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, sesungguhnya Engkau Maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini ingin menimba ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan potensi kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau redai. Justru berkati dan rahmatilah pertemuan kami ini. Kurniakanlah kepada kami ilmu-Mu. Sinarlah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya Rabbani dan hidayah-Mu. Semoga dengannya kami mudah menerima dan menghayati segala dan mengamalkan dalam mendidik warga universiti ini. Ya Zajalali wal Ikram, Kurniakanlah jua kepada kami kesihatan anggota, kecerdasan minda, ketenangan jiwa, kekuatan semangat, kesihatan, dan suburkanlah kasih sayang di antara kami. Semoga dengannya kami mampu menepani cabaran, berdaya saing, dan mampu mengangkat martabat diri, keluarga, masyarakat, dan negara. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad nabi ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum.
Thank you, Encik Ismail, for the Doa recitation. I now welcome Associate Professor Dr. Nur Ain binti Ismail, Deputy Dean Academic of FPTT, to the stage to read the biography of Prof. Matno.
Terima kasih kepada saudari pengacara majlis. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Datuk Teknologis Dr. Syarahan bin Sahib, Chancellor UTM. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Datuk Teknologis Dr. Muhammad Razali bin Muhammad, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Akademik dan Antarabangsa. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Dr. Zulkifli bin Ibrahim, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Pendidikan dan Inovasi. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Madia Dr. Nurul Fajar bin Abdul Manap, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Hak Luar Pelajar, Penolong-penolong Naib Chancellor, Pegawai Kanan Universiti, Dekan-dekan, para hadirin. I would like also to welcome our honorable guests from overseas for this event. I am pleased to introduce to you our professor, Professor Dr. Matno Hayati bin Tahir. Let me share with you a glimpse about Professor Dr. Matno Hayati. He was born in 14th of April 1960 in Kampung Cokor Besar, Serkat Pontian Johor at Don. He was blessed to be born into a loving couple of Haji Tahir bin Haji Abdul Hamid and Taslimah binti Surong. He is married to Puan Salome binti Ahmad, a loving soulmate, are blessed with 3 daughters, Nur Nabila, Nur Izzati, Nur Ilani, and adorable 2 granddaughters. He had his early education at the Sekolah Rendah Inggeris Serkat from 1967 until 1972. Continued with Sekolah Menengah Sains Johor from 1973 until 1979. It is a fond memory that he blossomed the friendship until today with some of his alumni friends, Professor Dr. Muhammad Ishaq Desa, Associate Professor Shah Damrani, and Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Nizam Abdul Rahman. He pursued his undergraduate study in Bachelor of Science, majoring in Geology from 1981 until 1985 at University of Malaya. Upon graduation, the Malaysian economy was in recession as most of the jobs are freeze, especially in the private sectors, including oil and gas company. However, he was very fortunate to be accepted to serve in the government agency, the Royal Malaysian Customs Department. In 1997, he obtained a Master in Technology Management from University Technology Malaysia, and he was granted his PhD from Waseda University, Japan, in Global Information and Telecommunication Studies in 2006. Ladies and gentlemen, now let me share on his service. Professor Dr. Matno Hayati has started his career with the government from January 1986 until January 1987 as Superintendent of Customs Assessment Officer at the Export Unit in Johor Bahru. Later, he was appointed as Investigation Officer from January 1987 to October 1989. He held the Johor Prosecuting Officer from October 1989 to January 1995. He was awarded his first Excellent Service Award in 1994. Ladies and gentlemen, he had his first exposure at the international level when he represented Malaysian Customs in a training and workshop to combat commercial fraud in Tokyo, Japan in 1994. He also had the privilege to attend a Japanese language class for a year in 2002 at Asian Bunka Kaikan in Tokyo, Japan. During his tenure from 1995 until 2002, he was transferred to selected units of Industrial Branch, Passenger Checking Branch, and Joe Revenue Accounting Branch, where he received his second Excellent Service Award. He became the head of R&D department at the Royal Customs Academy from April 2006 until December 2006. Among of his responsibilities are to enhance the courses at the academy. Later, he represented Malaysia in the first workshop and meeting of the Wildlife Enforcement Network in Thailand. Most interestingly, he once had become the auditor for the Kyoto Protocol. From January 2007 until December 2007, he was granted as the head of IT department at the Royal Customs Academy. He was also represented Malaysia in the second workshop and meeting of the Wildlife Enforcement Network in Manila. He also became the project manager and the first administrator for the World Customs Organization WCO e-learning platform for the Asia Pacific. He was the co-founder of the Asian WEN together with Thailand, which he was later recognized as the Malaysian focal point for the Asian WEN. He also had his position as the special aide to the Director General of Customs Malaysia from December 2007 until July 2008. During this time as well, he was appointed as the Technology Advisor to the Director General of Customs Malaysia. He was lucky to have a chance to represent Malaysia in the third workshop and meeting of the Wildlife Enforcement Network in Indonesia. At the peak of his career achievement in the Customs Department, he was appointed by the Asian Secretariat to represent Asia at the Convention of Parties 2008 at The Hague. Ladies and gentlemen, now many wonder why he quit from Customs Department and transitioned to the academic world. Let me quote what he says. He said that there are no other careers in the government agency that are more challenging than working as the customs officer. All issues, responsibilities, environment, and ecosystem within the Customs Department involve monetary transactions. Money is part of the formula in many customs duties. It needs a person who is very resilient to handle this. Those individuals who work as customs officers are extraordinary, but as you climb up the ladder, the challenges are so overwhelming to the extent that you yourself are so terrified to face those challenges. As he obtained his doctorate, he feels he can contribute more to the society and would like to venture into an academic field. He was accepted to the family of UTM on 7th of July 2008, and he has served as the Dean at FPTT from June 2010 until June 2014. He was promoted as Associate Professor in 19th of December 2011 and later as a Professor in 29th of June 2018. From June 2015 until June 2016, he was the Director of International Office, and from June 2017 until at present, he is the Dean of FPTT. Without further ado, now I would like to pass this session to Profesor Dr. Makno Hayati bin Tahir. Sekian, terima kasih.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Nur for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, now that we have learned a little bit more about Professor Dr. Makno, let us now watch a short multimedia presentation which shares the origins and history of Professor Makno as he sailed through his life and career. I think we can somewhat guess Prof. Makno's preference in music genre now. From that video montage, we can sort of gather that Prof. Makno has had a colourful past and many successes that have brought him where he is today. Borrowing the words of Bon Jovi from that song just now, you've got to hold on, ready or not, you live for the fight when it's all that you've got. Tells us much about Prof. Matno's general style of management and how he has led us at the faculty. We have now come to the pinnacle of this morning's ceremony. Please be reminded that there will be a question and answer session at the end of the lecture, so please keep your questions until the end. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Matno to deliver his anticipated lecture entitled Foreign Direct Investment, the Dynamics of the Economic Environment in Malaysia. Please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Matno Hayati.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Alhamdulillah bi'alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Yang bahagia Profesor Datuk Tan Dr. Syarahan Sahib, Vice Chancellor of Britain. Yang bahagia Profesor Datuk Tan Dr. Muhammad Razali bin Muhammad, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and International. Yang bahagia Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Fajar bin Abdul Manap, Deputy Vice Chancellor Student Affairs. Yang bahagia Associate Professor Dr. Zulkifli Ibrahim, sorry I missed that, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation. Associate Professor Technologist Muhammad Rahimi bin Yusuf, Assistant Vice Chancellor Development and Facility Management. Tuan Haji Ahmad Kamil, the Managing Director of Yayasan Melaka, the Deputy Deans of FPTT, senior management members of UTM, fellow deans, lecturers, invited guests and students. Last but not least, my special guest for today, Madam Melanie and Madam Patricia, and one other friend from University Hanover, German. Where is she? Oh yeah, welcome. Friends from University Muhammadiyah, if I'm not mistaken, Indonesia. Welcome. My fellow friends, dunia akhirat. Mr. Ridwan, Tuan Haji Mazlan, Mr. Aziz, Haji Syukong, they are the alumni of Scriveners Club, Geology Department, University of Malaya. We are together since 1979 until today, and many years ago. Last but not least, a group of people who support me so much. They are my family back there. My wife, my 3 kids, actually I have 2 son-in-law, but one cannot make it today. Only one is here. And my 2 chubby granddaughter. My sister, who is also my mother since 1973. My nephew. Ladies and gentlemen in this hall, welcome. I hope everybody will sit tight. Oh yeah, my PhD student is here. I don't know whether Pak Budi from Atmajaya is here. He promised me to come. Okay, no mind. I hope everybody will sit tight here listening to my sharing about foreign direct investment, the dynamic of the economic environment in Malaysia. Everybody lives within this big environment. Everything will be based on economic achievement, economic environment, economic performance of our nation. The dynamic of the economics will give us impact. Namely our salary, job offered, price of goods, price of services, our bills, and so on. Everything will be based on the current economic environment of a nation. Of course, in the equation, when we talk about economic environment, there will be so many things that are so dynamic. Change in one parameters will give impact to the others. This is the nature of economic anywhere in the world. Name it, we produce a good students, the achievement of students in the industry will give some dynamic to the parameters to an very long economic equation. So basically these are the guidelines or the content of my lecture today. I just want to share the information based on data from Department of Statistics Malaysia and so globaleconomy.com. These are two authority as far as data is concerned anywhere in the world. There are few components that can reflect the achievement of economics of a nation. Number one is GDP. Number two is GNP, which I come later. And number three, basically is an enabler. There are some regime who says FDI is an enabler. And also there are some regime who says that FDI is the inward external activities of an economy. These are the definition of the GDP. It's a monetary value of all the finished goods, services produced within a country's border. Everything produced in a nation, and it will be accounted as GDP of a nation. So I think we always heard about GDP in news every day and night. So these are the meaning of GDP. The activities, the account of the activities of goods and services within the border of Malaysia. So if you want to assess an economic achievement or performance of a country, this is the value, this is the score that you have to compare within nation or among nations. From the GDP outcomes or from the GDP scores, we can really develop a policy based on that score. As we have in Malaysia right now, we have macro and micro and macro policies. Those policies are developed based on our achievement of GDP from the previous years. So basically GDP also acts as an standard numbers that can be used to compare the performance of two or more economies. For example, let's take 10 years ago, our fundamental is very similar to Finland. So we try to compare the achievement of GDP of Finland and Malaysia. End of the day, we can see that Finland is more output compared to Malaysia, but the base is the same. So from there, we can know that Finland economic activities is more value added, more output compared to us. Again, it also helps government to draft a policy which drive local economic growth and longer period of negative GDP. If you remember, we achieved 2 or 3 years negative GDP during the economic turndown. Long periods of negative GDP will indicate more spending than production, can cause big damage in the economy. It leads to jobs losses, business closed, and production of the capacity is lower. So these are the criteria of GDP. So let's see, what are the major components of GDP? Gross domestic product, GDP is, the component is number one, gross investment, private consumption, the household expenditure, the government investment in infrastructure and so on, government spending in the projects, and last component is the export and import, which indicates the trade balance of a nation. We need more export compared to import. I will explain it later. So these are the component which is very dynamic, whereby within single component there are thousands of equations within. This graph shows the GDP growth rate of Malaysia. We can see that there are some three major ripples happen, indicates the history of three different economic downturns: 1995, 1997, 2007. I was graduate here, here. So that's why the biography say so just now. Okay, these are our achievement of GDP, the growth rate. And if we compare to the selected nation, it seems we are reasonably good. For this selected nation, we are second. Of course, this is Singapore, the champion of the Asian nation. And again, it shows ripples for three cycles of economic downturn. Over here, 85, 97, and 2007. But if we can see that after these ripples, we achieved the comeback in economic environment. For your information, in 1997, we've been informed that Malaysia recovered our economic downturn the fastest in Asia. But a research done by a professor from Australia who is expert in Indonesian economy and also ASEAN economy, the outcome says Indonesia achieved the fastest recovery of 1997 economic downturn. Even though you have IMF, you borrowed from IMF and so on, but in actual fact, when they account the numbers, Indonesia recovered the fastest within ASEAN nation. But sad to say, during that time, you are facing two problems. Number one, economic problems, and number two, political problems. If you remember, way back in, I can't remember the years, you have two presidents in a year. So actually, Indonesia recovered the economic downturn fastest in Asia. But when they account, your money being used for political recovery. So that's why, nationally, they say Malaysia recovered the best recovery after the 1997 economic turmoil. That's number one. Number two, from my research in 2011, it shows that from these three cycles, 85, 97, and 2007, it shows that those nations that spend during or pre-economic downturn will have longer period of sustainable economy. If you see the numbers, the percentage of spending to GDP, during 1985, Malaysia only recovered 1 year to sustain. But as it goes to second cycle, we achieve 2 years sustainability, and in 2007, we actually they have no numbers, no data during this time. But in 2007, I expect the period become longer. That means one issue which is very important, which I'm going to explain in detail after this, as the years goes, due to the technology development that we use in the industry, it creates very strong fundamental in Malaysia. That's why we can sustain longer period of time during and pre-economic downturn. This is one very major finding during my research. Second component of the economic assessment, it is a GNP, Gross National Product. Actually, it is an extension of GDP. GNP is the aggregate market value of all goods and services produced by all of its citizens and businesses, irrespective of their location, foreign and local, during a particular period. So all citizens and businesses of Malaysia, whether the activities carried out in Malaysia or foreign, it will be accounted into the GNP score. So GNP acts as a superset of GDP, as it factors in the net income from abroad in addition to the GDP. So GDP is a subset of GNP, and these are the differences. GDP is within the geographical limitation, but GNP extends to other countries, regions for activities performed by net income generated by its national, by citizen, whether local or abroad. Okay? Then it measures the monetary value, but GNP measures the national are contributing towards economic equality performed by the resident of the country, local and foreign, the citizen contribution. Then GDP is based on local, GNP is based on citizenship. GDP is commonly referred to as measured by regional output, but GNP is best described as the measures of national output. So higher GNP than GDP indicates the citizens of a country are doing better abroad. Actually, this is why our big GLC like Petronas having activities abroad, because we need the import of the product, the account of the Petronas imported to Malaysia, and they will increase our GNP. This is one of the purpose why we try to export our business activities outside. Having said that, if an economy of a nation is a closed economy, that means GNP is equal to GDP. For example, those days, China, when we call it the Iron Curtain, no export, no import activities. So all the output within China, actually the GNP is equal to GDP. China is having a very long story. The case says, after they opened up the window, they went out for R&D and so on. But as time goes, now foreign countries go to China and do business in China. So they are the other way around, by design. So the dynamic of an economy, we say GNP is equal to GDP plus the net earned by domestic residents from overseas investment. Okay, net income earned by local from overseas investment minus net income earned from foreign residents or businesses from domestic investment. Or in short, second, we call it the foreign direct investment, which I will come very detailed later. So basically, these are the relationships. Now, if we look at the scores of our GDP versus GNP, we can see that GDP is bigger than GNP. What does it mean? Okay. Of course, these are the ripples during the economic turmoil. It shows there are aggressive economic activities in Malaysia, And the progression happen in the coming years. Ripple progression. So it means there are some aggressive economic activities happen within country or at foreign. There must be some thing that can reflect from this graph. If we compare or if we deduct the GDP with GNP, we can see all the scores from 1960 until now, it is negative. It means, okay, when we deduct GNP with GDP and it is negative, less than zero, it means net import is lower than net export. Or in other words, the foreign activities in Malaysia is bigger than our local activities overseas. So these are the reflection that we can get. Presence of external activities by citizen, but less contribution to economic growth because the NP is lower. That means local export activities by foreign entities is so much. Okay? So in other words, I can say that we earn in the economic cost is contributed by the foreign activities compared to our local activities contributed by overseas, which we account into Malaysian account. So this is the issue. There is a reason behind. I will explain it later. What happened here when we say the foreign activities happen very aggressively in Malaysia? If we follow endogenous growth theory, it says the investment in human capital, innovation and knowledge are significant contributors to the economic growth. From where they get this knowledge? My younger daughter is crying. And younger granddaughter is crying. She needs some drink because it's quite hot here. Relax a little bit, okay? It's okay. So, what we can say is that we are growing, we are earning from the investment did by the foreign economic activities that contributed to our economic growth. Focus on the positive externalities and spillover. We work at a multinational company, we learn something from the management until the technical issues and so on. So the endogenous theory says the external effect and spillover from this component actually contributing to our sustainability and the resilience of our local economy. Subsidies for R&D and education increase the growth rate in some endogenous growth model by increasing the incentive for innovation. But are we going to subsidize for all innovation? This is the issue. Then the very third component is the foreign direct investment. There are two major definitions for FDI. Number one, as an investment made by firm or individual in one country into business interest located in another country. Either foreign come here and invest or Malaysian go up to invest. But the OECD define little bit different as an investment in business by an investor from another country for which the foreign investors has control over a company purchased. So if you look carefully, the local definition meant for local business on foreign business, but OECD will have a very generic definition for FDI. Why I stress FDI here? Because FDI is very, very important that contribute to the spillover of knowledge. There are two types, the inflow and outflow. For local who invest overseas, we call it outflow. For foreign invest in Malaysia, we call it inflow, because it carries different effect on the GDP and GNP. So if you look at the scores of GDP and FDI, it shows both of them are positively growth. The rate of growth is slightly dependent to each other, even though we are not sure of this, because we're going to check it later. Either positive or negative growth. But if you compare the percentage of FDI and GDP, it shows like this. It have a negative trend line with inconsistent growth. Negative trend line means the GDP growth rate is bigger compared to FDI. Okay? Because it has a negative growth. So the denominator is bigger. It's getting bigger and bigger. Then we will have this result. It also indicates a possibility of self-sustained by Malaysian economic activities. Because let's say we put FDI constant, the GDP is growing. Why is growth? It must contributed by the local economic fundamental. So that's why it will grow bigger, and end of the day, the ratio is negative trend line. Now we look at the elasticity, whether the GDP refer to FDI depends on FDI, or the other way around, or FDI depends on GDP. So if you look at the elasticity, it shows that all the elasticity since from 1970 until present, it shows about less than 1. And from that, we say that our GDP is inelastic. It does not depend on FDI. Of course, there are some nations, which is third tier developing nation and also the third world country, their GDPs depend so much on FDI because they got to work with foreign nation, with foreign company, with multinational company, but it does not happen in Malaysia. Yes, of course, we have some or many foreign direct investment here in Malaysia, but basically our GDP growth does not depend on the FDI. This is a good sign of our economy because it shows our sustainability potential and resilient to the economic turn down in the future. These are the FDI contribution. Net growth of import is larger than export, shows local export activities by foreign entities is great. Negative trend of FDI growth over GDP means GDP growth is bigger, is an indicator of sustainability of economic activities in Malaysia. So from there we can conclude that influx of FDI into Malaysia, they introduce technology to the nation. As we work with the technology, endogenous theory says the spillover happen. FDI acts as an enabler to the technology development and technology usage in the industry. That's where the issue of technology transfer is at prime. those are the components that contribute to the technology transfer that later are the part of the equation of the economic sustainability. So, we look a little bit on technology transfer. It says it's just a sharing of skills, knowledge, technologies, method of manufacturing, sample of manufacturing, facilities, and so on. These are where the sharing activities happen when we talk about technology transfer. Sharing among all entities, including the government agencies. So the purpose of sharing is to ensure the scientific and technological development are accessible to a wider range of users, where we call it the diffusion, who can further develop and exploit the technology into a new product, process, application, and so on. And our issue are here actually. Personally, I can say that our technology transfer happened and stopped here. We are so lacking in developing further the technology that we use locally. In fact, we have knowledge due to the spillover effect of the FDI. I will show the evidence later. These are some of the modes of technology transfer. From managerial, my student says, managerial can contribute to technology support? Then I say yes. Can you give example? They cannot answer. I don't want to ask to the audience. Okay. But as low as managerial system, we are talking about 5S, we are talking about quality system and so on. These are the example of managerial technology transfer up to FDI and so on. So these are the mode of technology transfer where the knowledge is embedded into this system or mechanism that will be spilled over to our local user. Let's look at the import components of our economic activities. I focus into three components which are falls under this category. We are talking about manufactured goods and services, and machineries. These are three major components where involve the activities of foreign direct investment. It shows that positively growth, if we look at the trend line, positive trend line consistent with the growth of FDI. Because when FDI grows, the value of importation of these three components also grows. It can be implied that knowledge shared through usage of goods and services, knowledge applied for the sustainability of the economic growth, because we are working with the technology imported by the FDI. That is the very important component when we talk about technological growth within the country. But of course, there are some obstacles which I will explain after this. If we look at GDP, FDI, and import value, consistently it grows positive. But if we look at the percentage of import upon GDP, the graph is very significantly showing us something. Basically, the trend line is positive, but as it reaches year 2000, the graph is going down. What does it mean? The positive trend line shows the growth rate of import is bigger than GDP. Okay? Importation is bigger than GDP, the growth rate, that's why it grows downward. But since year 2000, upward, but since 2000, percentage of FDI to GDP shows negative trend that indicates the economic growth based on strong fundamental of our economy and our resources. Okay, because GDP growth is bigger than import. That means we have a very strong fundamental. We are reducing our dependence on importation. This is a good sign of our economic situation. I think all countries in the nation, in the world, needs this score, whereby the growth of GDP is lesser or reducing compared to growth of FDI. Because this will contribute to locally sustained economic activities. So what can we say? We liberalize our financial policy. We allow FDI. We allow foreign-owned company in Malaysia. Then the influx of FDI together with technology, and we work with that technology. While working with that technology transfer happen. Knowledge shares through usage in all economic activities. We have a strong internal fundamental of economic activities due to the technology that we acquire. As a result, it contributed to the sustainability of the economic growth. Now we achieve about 5.4 or 5.7 constantly for the past 2 or 3 years. We hope that it will be increased to maybe 7 or 8 in the near future, so that we can stabilize our economy. But most importantly, we hope that the GDP scores is solely contributed by local personnel, local professional. That is our hope. There are 2 issues. Do our strong fundamentals contribute to the introduction of the new locally produced product or services, or we call it new innovation, new technology, and so on? Or our strong fundamental act as enabler to support industry, the small supporting industry like SME? These are 2 issues. Look at our graduates, for example, Lieutenant. Where do our graduates landed? Is it in a company where they can do R&D for new technology, for new production system, for new equipment and so on? Or our product just supporting the small SMEs? We look at some characteristics of technology advancement to answer that issue. Capable of specialized function. These are one of the characteristics of advanced technology. Return on investment will only do high value added function because they need the return of investment. Tasks with high precision, efficiency and productivity. High capital investment. The needs for highly skilled workers to handle those technology. But highly skilled workers will get high wages. These are some of the characteristics of advanced technology. As a result of this, not all players in the industry are capable to sustain, because they cannot pay higher wages to the workers, and so on. Because of that, this will trigger the reduction of numbers of workers in the industry. I have some graphic here, okay. But when we say we need small number of workers, but what we see, what we observe in the market is excess of foreign workers. The issue is why? We got to answer this. Is it the presence of excess of foreign workers is the cause of development? I will show you some evidence to answer that. Let's say this is a timeline from 1980s until present. We have a kind of technology used in the market, namely the manufacturer. As time goes, this technology is developed or improved at the developed nation, not developing nation, at the developed nation, and the technology becomes very specialized. What happened? Some of the unskilled workers in this industry will be split out into the supporting industries, namely the industry grows because they are doing the unspecialized job. This is what happened in the industry. The multinational company improve their technology, become specialization. Some of the workers been retrenched, but fortunately, those unspecialized jobs being done by the newly grown SME. So our workers that been retrenched go to this industry to have job. But sad to say, the growth of the employability in these SMEs is far more bigger if we compare to those unskilled workers retrenched from the multinational company. So the growth rate of the employability here is so great as we compare to the retrenchment rate. As it goes, this specialized equipment become more specialized. Again, the same process happens. And again, the growth of more SMEs to support the unspecialized job in the industry growth, and it needs more workers as compared to the years before. So this is what happened. As it grows, then we can see the excess of foreign workers working along with us on the street. It's not simply we are not enough workers. Where is my graph about employability? It's a trend where the SME grows because SME scores a number of about 90% in the entity and supplies about close to 70% of the employability. So this is what happened. So if somebody on the street asks you whether the number of employees needed when technology is in place, is it lower or bigger? The answer is it will increase the number of employability. Because when we put in place technology, it will become specialized in a few years. So this is the result. Increase of SME as a support industry, increase needs workers, and usage of technology knowledge as only the enabler. Okay? So these are the situation to answer why we are excess of foreign workers in the market. These are some evidence about the employment. Malaysia scores about 3% or less than 3% of unemployment, but in economics, it says any lesser, 3% or lesser, it means fully employed. So at present situation, our citizen is fully employed. Those who are not employed in the market, they choose to be not employed. And some of them are for Baka. Welcome. I can see you. You are at the corner there. So these are the things. We are fully employed. If we look at the labor forces between local and foreign, it goes hand in hand. Just to answer my slides before. Okay? And the growth of multinational and the growth of SME is consistent to each other, knowing that the multinational will in place very specialized technology and grow a new SME in the market, and it needs very high number of employers or workers to support their activities. So this is the evidence shows the excess of foreign workers in the country. So we cannot complain. Unless we turn our country to like Singapore, from manufacturing to service industry, or we just accept the very highly value-added industry like Singapore did, then we can reduce the number of foreign workers. Now the issue, the very important issues. Where are our professional lenders, namely our engineers, as far as we are concerned? Our professionals are busy filling the gaps of employment at the supporting players, namely the industry or the SMEs. I have no data to support this. This is from my observation. This is my disclaimer. But one of the purposes of this lecture, I think, I try to introduce some issues for research to my brothers and sisters here. Okay? Try to search for data for this. Is it right? Our professional, our graduates, not Bhutan, but Malaysia, they are busy filling the gaps to support the SME that grows very fast. But as far as this is concerned, I think the environment creates a quite non-healthy environment. Because what we need is something more value added produced by these graduates. Okay? They should contribute to research for technology development. But the issue is, current national ecosystem for technology production is lacking in some areas. Like policy development, is there any single policy or macro policy for technology transfer? I don't think so we have. So current government should see this seriously to support the environment for technology development. We always complain that we are now R&D activities happen in industry and so on. Of course we have, but so little. So there must be some mechanism should be decided by the ministry or by the government. Try to do this as a research, especially for FPTT's lecturers. Okay? This will slow down the national technology development, lacking of R&D triggered by limited return of investment because the market shares is too small for investment in research in Malaysia. Now we are, the famous word in the street is, we try to look for a third national car. What kind of car the government have to produce? Did the fundamental of their decision is return of investment? Because it's quite a big question mark if we say we can export our cars larger than we use locally. It's quite a big question mark. So this is the issue for research and development in Malaysia. Our return investment is very blurred because our market share is very small compared to China, compared to Indonesia. In Malaysia, experiencing a saturated economic growth and technology development. Because of that, we are lacking in doing R&D, namely producing our own technology, our own equipment, a combination of various technology. We are lacking on that, and we just working in our economic activities in SMEs and so on. We can say that our economy at present is saturated. We must find a new vacuum where we can proceed with certain activities, with certain economic activities. But I think the question mark is very big. What kind of vacuum that we have? These are the questions of us, lecturers and researchers. We got to find that vacuum. to sum up in the diagrammatic slide, these are the production of a technology, not in Malaysia, it's abroad, happen in developed nation. When we import, the process of transfer happen here by the entrepreneurs, and it's split into two components. Number one, for commercial use, the technology will be used in production, in SMEs, and any businesses, construction and so on. But another fold is a technical world where we need actually our product, our graduates working within this environment. They got to improve the current technology. They got to produce our own made in Malaysia technology, which is very, very much lacking at the current situation. So that's why I can confirm that our economy, basically I can say as far as today, is saturated because technology only been used in commercial world, not on technical world. So we are lacking in these issues. I think with the realization of lacking of hands-on engineers, then we have engineering technology faculty and so on. In near future, they can contribute to this fold, which is the technical world, increasing our new technology made in Malaysia. So we can see influx of FDI actually is an enabler to technology transfer. Economic activities happen, engineering approach, direct technology development is lacking in creation of fundamental knowledge, lacking of R&D in the industry. There are, but the percentage is too small. And number two, from commercial approach, is overwhelmed. Technology transfer not happen to the multinational, it also happen to the small and medium industry. So knowledge reposited as user in tacit form never been applied because they only use the technology to produce something. In aggregate, we can say that it's a wastage. We impart knowledge to the student for 4 years, but then they just use their knowledge day and night in the very cyclical work at the industry, at the SME, not in the real research and development work in a company to produce new equipment and so on. So this is what happened when we say that we try to leverage the technology involvement. It involves human, the technology, the information, and also the organization. It works hand in hand. And as a result, I can say, are we ready for the best of the state-of-the-art technology? Knowing that our experts just support the SMEs in the industry, or we just have the best technology, the second or the third best technology to work on. Basically, it depends so much on technical development, technical level, capability, the absorption, the assimilation of the knowledge, and how and what are the will to support the sub-process of the internalized transfer. Are we willing to support the development or improvement of the current technology? Or if we say that we will, what kind of incentive, what kind of mechanism that can we support? So these are the issues that can be researched. Okay? So basically these are the way how the technology transfer happen. I don't want to go so much on this, but to the third component or to the third process, when technology transfer happen, there must be 3 components involved. In this situation, Okay, we have suppliers, we have Malaysia here, these are the financial institutions whereby the industry can get loans, or even Asia Development Bank can support the financial system and so on. And these are the government agencies or mechanisms that control the credit transfer that happen to a country. Okay, so these are very, I just go through, these are the option of three mechanism of transfer. I can give example to the second one. For example, we involve the international, United Nations and so on, because I have involved a little bit on this. Very simple. I give example of a case where everybody knows about this. Look at Iran. Why US put economic sanction to Iran? Or maybe Iraq? They have so-called the suppliers of nuclear technology those days. But what happened when their nuclear technology activities doesn't report it to the international agencies? We call it IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agencies, which is here. They are the institution who regulate the atomic energy activities. So that's why US and some parts of the world put the economic sanction to them. Because just as simple as Iran or Iraq, so-called their nuclear activities does not have any consensus from the agencies, we call it IAEA. So these are the macro level triple system. I think I stop there for this system and also for this lecture. I think I throw few issues where research can be done, and I try to share our economic, our data deposited at the Department of Statistics. I try to analyze, to answer why our economy basically we can see like saturated, why we have foreign employers, many foreign workers in Malaysia, why we need the FDI inflow to Malaysia. Those are the answer. Those are the questions that I try to answer throughout my lecture today. I think we have ample time for question and answers. I thank you so much to everybody who stuck at the seat listening to my sharing about the Malaysian economy. Thank you very much, Dato, to have your time here. The top management of the universities, Tuan Haji Ahmad from Yayasan Melaka, Prof. Bakar, Abu, our president, chairman of Professor's Majlis Profesors ITEM, Prof. Bakar from UPM JSM, our external examiners. Thank you so much. I put up person you are there because your color is same as the background. To my foreign colleagues, thank you so much from Hanover University. I hope you have some ideas how our economic situation are. Our Indonesian friend, I think the current situation, you have surpassed Malaysian economy. Also Thailand is, and also Vietnam. Some of them have surpassed Malaysia and some of them is side by side. Basically, I put Malaysia as third and or fourth country in Asia. That's why, Dato' Agu, I dare to say that our economic situation basically is a saturated situation. Unless we can find the vacuum, we can fill that vacuum because we have all the resources. Name it, what kind of engineers that we don't have? Everything that, every engineers, every discipline we have a lot here in Malaysia, but maybe lacking of policies, the will, return of investment is one of those issues that is naturally happen to Malaysia because our environment is, our market is just like this. It's quite difficult for us to penetrate international market unless we can produce state-of-the-art technology and so on, where we can penetrate even Germany. It's a challenge to all our researchers here. Don't go so much on fundamental. My advice before I retire, don't go so much on fundamental research. Whereas we do We do need somebody who do fundamental research, but please try to translate whatever we saw right under our nose, what we see right under our nose, try to translate it into something that is more marketable and try to answer the needs of the citizen at large. This is very important. That is I think my wisdom before my retirement. And with that, I thank you so much. I open the floor for any questions. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.